This is David Talbot. I'm the CTO of WorkMovr, and we have a little extra wrinkle in the credit card process, starting off with our European customers, but also this is spreading as well. The basic idea is that when you charge with a credit card, you get an extra authentication like SMS message or email or whatever to do an additional authentication, and it's called 3D Secure. Okay, and generally what happens is after you put in your card, it sends you a note to go to an authentication page and enter a password or a code or something like that. And there's some variation here, okay? And the regulation is the strong customer authentication regulation, which is in Europe, okay? So let's go through and see what we want to do here, okay? And remember, what we do with Stripe is our primary, and also the same with Square, and we do some subprime credit cards as well. We go direct to the Stripe APIs. So this was not very difficult to get fixed up if you go direct to the Stripe APIs rather than, using the standard Caspio gateway. Okay. So here's a screen flow. Client sets up a payment on a Caspio data page or whatever. And then the bank sends this, and there's variations, but this is typical. We'll send this back to the individual's phone. And, they can see if this is something they've just done, or if it's some sort of fraud thing. And then they do the authentication, or they say this is something I didn't authorize. And if the authentication is not successful, they get an error page. And if it is successful, they get a success page. And so pretty straightforward. Obviously, it's a trade-off between more security and more data entry. And so in some ways you could consider this a little bit of a pain in the neck, but it's the regulation in Europe and it is spreading as well. Okay. And so a couple details here. What we do is as we charge the credit card, we first put the payment in with an incomplete status. And when you get the 3D secure authentication, we update the status to updated and create the actual charge. Okay, so we don't run the charge until you've done the authentication. Okay, and then you go to the success page. On subscriptions, there's a couple of variations. Ideally, you authenticate when you make the first payment, and then that allows you to go for all the other payments. But some banks, and so there is variation, they require the 3D secure confirmation every time. So every monthly payment, you'll get an email and you'll have to authenticate it. So a little bit of a pain in the neck, but maybe worthwhile. From the merchant, very, very important. If they've done the 3D authentication, then the merchant keeps the money regardless. So that the whole liability for the transaction is transferred over to the credit card company, and there's no chargebacks, okay? So if you'd like to talk more, we're happy to share our code with anyone, end users in the Caspio family, and thank you very much.